I think it's safe to say that Cyberpunk 2077 is one of the most, if not the most anticipated game of the year 2020. That is, of course, assuming it doesn't get pushed back yet again into 2021. But in all seriousness, it does look like the game is on track to hit its December 10th release date. Cyberpunk 2077 is set to release on the 10th for PC, Xbox One, and PlayStation 4, and even Google Stadia, if you're into that sort of thing. The game will also be released on Xbox Series X, S, and PlayStation 5 sometime later in 2021. Now, if you're like me, you're going to be getting this game for PC. And a lot of you may be wondering how well your rig can run this game, if at all. Fortunately, CD Projekt Red made a nice convenient chart not only showing the minimum system requirements, but also showing a whole range of recommendations based on what graphics quality and resolution you want to play at. They even go a step further and show you different system recommendations if you really want to prioritize ray tracing. And all things considered, unless you really need that ray tracing in your gaming experience, it doesn't look like people will need to spend too much in order to play this game at respectable settings. Alright, so let's go over all of these recommendations, starting with the minimum system requirements. At the minimum specs at a 1080p resolution with the graphics settings set to low, you have a minimum recommended processor of an Intel Core i5 3570K, or on the AMD side, an AMD FX 8310. The minimum requirements for memory is 8GB of RAM, and a GPU with a minimum of 3GB of VRAM. For NVIDIA, they recommend a GTX 780, or for Team Red, a Radeon RX 470. Across the board for storage, it's going to take up 70GB of space. You can put this on a hard disk drive, but of course they do recommend putting this on an SSD. The SSD probably won't do too much in terms of overall performance, but you will see a lot of benefit when it comes to load time. Moving over to the recommended specs for playing on high graphics settings at 1080p. For an Intel CPU, you're going to want to run an i7-4790, or for AMD, a Ryzen 3 3200G. For the recommended memory, they're going to be bumping you up from the minimum of 8GB up to 12. CD Projekt Red recommends having a GPU with 6GB of VRAM. For NVIDIA, you can get by with a 1060 6GB version, or a GTX 1660 Super. On AMD's side of things, they recommend using a Radeon RX 590. Moving over to the high system requirements at 1440p and ultra settings, not a whole lot is going to change in this recommended category. You still have the 4790 for the Intel CPU, the Ryzen 3 3200G for the AMD CPU, 12GB of RAM, and a GPU with 6GB of VRAM. However, the GPUs that they recommend for this setting are going to be the RTX 2060 or the Radeon RX 5700 XT. Although the VRAM is going to be the same, these cards are much more capable at operating at 1440p. Moving into the ultra system requirements at 4K on ultra graphics settings, you can actually still get away with using an i7-4790. However, if you're using AMD, they recommend using a Ryzen 5 3600. The recommended RAM usage gets bumped up to 16GB. And then to no surprise, we see an upgrade needed for the graphics cards here. For Team NVIDIA, they recommend an RTX 2080 Super or an RTX 3070 if you manage to snag a 30 series card. And unfortunately, if you're with Team AMD, the only card that they really recommend right now is the RX 6800 XT, which is also equally just as tough to get as the 30 series right now. Pretty much what this list tells us is that if you've built a new system within the last few years, you should be able to play this game no problem. However, if you wanted something more than just playability and you really wanted to enjoy Cyberpunk to the fullest with that sweet, sweet ray tracing, then things start to get a little bit more problematic. At 1080p, CD Projekt Red's minimum requirements for ray tracing, with ray tracing set to medium, you can get away with a 4790 CPU or a Ryzen 3 3200G. You will need 16GB of RAM and at least a 6GB 2060. For both the ray tracing high and the ray tracing ultra categories at 1440p and for 4K, both of these categories have a recommended CPU of either the i7-6700 for Team Intel or the Ryzen 5 3600 for AMD. Both of these settings have a minimum requirement of 16GB of RAM. And for GPUs at 1440p, they recommend an RTX 3070, and for 4K, an RTX 3080. Yeah, I said ray tracing would be a little bit problematic. It does kind of suck right now for people who are hoping to upgrade their system to play Cyberpunk 2077, given the whole scarcity with the 30 series graphics card. But at least with a 20 series card, you should still be able to enjoy ray tracing in Cyberpunk 2077, albeit you may have to adjust certain settings and see what sacrifices you need to make in order to enjoy that feature. Another thing I do want to point out is that you may notice that the system requirements chart doesn't mention anything about frame rate. The best that we can speculate is that this is all to run at 30 frames per second. It's possible for some of these settings you can hit 60 frames a second or better, but odds are likely for these system requirements, we are talking in terms of a frame rate of 30 frames a second. Again, we don't know 100% for sure, and your mileage may vary when you get the game yourself on your rig, but if we're trying to like make safe assumptions here, 30 frames a second is probably the most likely frame rate that they are targeting. But yeah, with that bit out of the way, it is time for the comment of the week. Last week I talked about Black Friday video game sales and a lot of sales that were actually happening early. I'll leave a card if you want to check that out. But anyway, this comment of the week goes to T the UF, who kind of makes a correction for me. He says, Target got buy two, get one free. You even showed the ad, but you kept saying buy one, get one. Yeah, I kind of messed up on that one. Basically, Target for Black Friday is doing a buy two, get one sale for a select list of video games. You can go to Target's website or check out the video to see the ad, but yeah, for some reason I kept saying buy one, get one, when in fact it's buy two, get one. Mistakes happen, I guess. It is what it is. Thank you for correcting me. I don't like getting information wrong and I don't want to mislead people in any way. So yeah, that's an L on my part, but yeah. Target Black Friday sale, buy two, get one. It's a pretty good deal. There's some good selections there. But yeah, that about does it for this one, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you again, as always, for watching the video and checking out the channel. If you like this video, please do leave a thumbs up, as it is not only a good way to show us what you thought of our content, but it is one of the best ways that you can actually help our videos get seen by the YouTube algorithm. Feel free to hit us up on our social media like Twitter and Facebook. And if you like this content and want to see more like it, do hit that subscribe button and ring that notification bell icon to stay up to date on everything that we are doing. We release new videos every Monday and Saturday and live stream Wednesday nights, usually around 9 p.m. Central Time. If Brendan is feeling better, I believe next Wednesday we will be streaming some Minecraft together, so that should be a good time. But yeah, that's enough rambling out of me. Thank you again so much for watching. My name is Blake, and for all things tech, games, movies, and other nerdy things in between, be sure to subscribe to Digital Cynics. Have a good one, everyone. We'll see you next time.